Hi, everyone. I guess we're ready. That is a flattering 47 participants in the audience. Thank you for coming. All right. I'm Valerie Estelle Frankel, and I have written many, many books on the heroine's journey. I don't know, maybe 15. All right, that doesn't sound like that many. I'm actually the author of 80 books um, examining all our favorite pop culture series, Game of Thrones, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Xena, Buffy, and for a lot of these, I do a heroine's journey talk. All right, I'll post these again later, but I have so many links for everybody because I have books on Amazon. Just check up Valerie Estelle Frankel. I have a free book on the heroine's journey if you'd like something to get you started. That's also supposed to be one of the easier ones that plays with lots of children's lit. My dad wanted to give out a free one at all the cons, and now we can. I have this talk already on YouTube, although right now I'm doing it live at Balticon. I have a talk on the villain's journey. My book on the villain's journey is coming out so soon, just a few months, because I do the heroine's journey talk a lot. I really wanted to move along and do something else. And this PowerPoint is up on SlideShare along with so many other PowerPoints I've done. And of course, if you wanted to email me and get any other resources, really, and I've got books to review and anything like that, yeah, shoot me a message, including questions about how to apply any of this stuff and geeking out. Yeah. All right, so I've done this talk so much, and I said it's already on YouTube, that I like to go for some interaction. That means, yes, put questions in the chat, Q&A or chat. I'll try to keep an eye on both. And yes, I will answer them during the talk and incorporate stuff during the talk. No, I have not read all of your favorite series, but I will at least try to get in some of your ideas. If this was in person, I'd be, asking for more audience participation, but it is what it is. All right, let's get going. It's a big topic, especially if we get in a lot of extra material. All right, sorry, I did not set this up. I've been playing with the chat. Here we go, I guess. All right, the heroine's journey in whatever we feel like. Myth, fantasy, pop culture, our favorite TV shows, superhero comics, clearly. Yeah, let's do this. All right. So many people, probably the majority who have shown up knowing, what this title meant, are familiar with Joseph Campbell's hero's journey. Sure. Whether you are or not, I'll give you the 10-second version. All right. So there was this mythologist in the 50s named Joseph Campbell who said, when I look at myths all around the world, I see the same story over and over, especially in the big epics. The hero grows up with foster parents who don't understand him. He's out in the boonies. He's doesn't know his heritage. And then a mysterious wizard comes and knocks on his door and says, "Greetings. I am Dumbledore / Gandalf / Merlin / Obi-Wan, and I have great news. You have a great destiny. You are the son of a king. You have the Force," something like that. "Now take your father's sword and come with me." And off they go on a great adventure, and they make friends and enemies and have all kinds of little tiny adventures. And then they get to the darkest place of all, where the hero is all alone in the darkness, and he is facing the villain. And this villain is everything he's rejected in himself, everything he could have been but chose not to be. You see this with Harry Potter and Tom Riddle. You see this in the moment where Frodo is facing Gollum and going, "Wow, I really could have become you, couldn't I?" And I still could. And the villain, this is all a metaphor for growing up. So in facing one's dark side, this is also a metaphor for facing down the father tyrant and choosing to grow up with a different model, which is why Darth Vader in this story is the father, and so many other characters give off an evil father, evil overlord vibe. Well, the hero faces down this force of temptation, and in the more enlightened versions, he comes to understand and forgive and sympathize with this figure. There's Vader again. And at last he returns to his community, an adult, to teach the next generation. I was in college and I was researching how to write the most wonderful children's story in the world. I did not yet know about Joseph Campbell, actually, but I started charting out all the stories, and I was seeing some really obvious patterns. And then I read Joseph Campbell and read how his ideas influenced his buddy George Lucas to make Star Wars, and so on and so forth. And I said, okay, this all makes sense, but Campbell just kind of skipped over all the girl stories. Sometimes he said that the hero could be male or female. He uses the myth of Inanna as from Sumerian mythology as an example of the descent into death. And sometimes he said the heroine is just kind of the prize, the princess screaming in the tower to be rescued. And absolutely sometimes, but he left out so many stories that actually have girl questers, and for those I found some differences. So yeah, my chart. Also, other scholars have done the heroine's journey. I basically agree with them, but sometimes we find different quirks and analyze from different angles. For instance, if you read Maureen Murdoch's book, she was looking at this from modern psychology, whereas I was looking at it from myth and fairy tales and modern fantasy novels. Alrighty. So, I think I'll actually just go ahead because we'll be looking at all these steps. Off we go. And this is a cycle. You go down into the underworld and then you return from the underworld, the land of the unconscious, the magic world, as an adult. All right, so the heroine is growing up in the world of common day, rather like the hero. Once again, there are the foster parents who don't understand. The kid is isolated. The kid has a great destiny but can't reach it. Real life is boring. Up in the top left, I've got Martha Washington, who has an amazing epic comic from the 90s, and she's growing up in a hellish dystopia that she is going to rise and find a way to lead. Down on the bottom, we've got Buffy. We've got young Wonder Woman, who's just in this stasis pattern as she's just training and training, but for what? There's no war, there's no nothing here. All we do is hang out on the island. And up top right, I've got Cassia from Matched. It's a teen dystopia trilogy, one of the Hunger Games competitors, but I really like the cover imagery because on the cover of book one, there she is. She's stuck in her bubble. She's wearing the green dress of innocence, and she's just kind of cool being in the bubble. Yeah, so that's our metaphor. And for 16 years, nothing important happened to Cinderella. So some kind of a call to adventure happens. There's a letter to the ball and Cinderella's got to go out. Something happens. Now, while the hero's usually questing to topple the tyrant, the heroine is usually questing to rescue family members in danger. So she's the savior figure. By the way, I'm not particularly... Some of these tropes are on the sexist side. Basically, I'm dealing with thousands of years of mythology and talking about what happens in the 1,000 years of mythology. I will get into some more recent stuff and some ways to modernize these tropes, but again, the thousands of years of mythology make it is what it is. All right, so yes, the heroine of the Uglies is just planning to grow up and get the plastic surgery everyone gets in her dystopian world, but then she screws up enough that the secret police catch her and they make her a deal and send her out on a quest, and out she goes. Moana was doing just fine, but the island's in trouble and she's got to go out. Hunger Games lady has to rescue her younger sister. Wrinkle in Time, she discovers that her father has been kidnapped and there's a way to find him, and then later she's going to have to rescue her little brother. Ray is just existing, planning to get out, but nothing is changing until BB-8 shows up, and yes, he is in many ways a little kid needing rescue. So something makes them leave the house. And going back to the oldest myth we've got on record, I mentioned Inanna. In our really oldest version, Inanna, who, by the way, Aphrodite appears to have evolved from her to give you an idea of her personality. She is the goddess of life, of partying, of sex, also growing things out of Sumerian mythology. And in her story, she decides that she has had enough of just the partying life, the life goddess life, and she wants to go out and explore the underworld. So out she's going. Okay, then. We'll check in with her in a bit and see how that went. In the middle, I've got the fairy tale of the 6 swans. If you know that one, her brothers have been turned into swans, and she's got to go out and save them. And there are really old versions of Persephone's story where she is not kidnapped by Hades, but rather like Inanna, wants to go discover the land of the dead, and out she goes. And just like the hero, the heroine says, oh my gosh, I can't do this. It's too scary. It's too big a quest. No, I couldn't possibly. And something you see in just the girl stories, really, is a Sleeping Beauty arc. Now, often this happens at the climax and is linked to the descent into death, but you also sometimes see it at the beginning of the story where the heroine just retreats into sleep and doesn't want to come out of it until the time comes that she's pushed out of it and has to go on her quest. Book 3 of his Dark Materials, The Ember Spyglass, begins with Lyra in this enchanted sleep, and her mother's trying to keep her there, keep her a child forever, which is rather like the Rapunzel story. Don't go out on the quest, don't grow up, just stay the way you are forever. But she comes out of it and out she goes. And if you take a look at Brunhilde, the original version, yes, you can get some very sexist imagery of Brunhilde, who, yes, is lying there asleep in a ring of fire until Siegfried the hero comes and wakes her up, etc. But in the original version, you find her actually not dressed like that, but armored head to toe and surrounded by the ring of fire and mountains and all kinds of obstacles, with this imagery, rather like Sleeping Beauty and the Thorns, of I'm not going to let a guy in until he's proven himself and until the woman chooses to let down her defenses and decides to grow up and let the guy in and say, all right, I am ready to move on to the next stage now. So when you read the Sleeping Beauty stories with the prince as part of the woman's personality, you get a very different story. Oh, flipping back, Joan Gould sprinting straw into gold will just revolutionize your views of every fairy tale and totally worth a look if you're into this. So, as I said, heroes are questing to defeat the Dark Lord, which is a metaphor for growing up and becoming the next father ruler, ideally a more benevolent one than the last one. And the heroine is questing to save the family members. We've got Demeter and her quest for Persephone up top. Below them, we've got Isis, who traveled the world gathering up the dismembered pieces of her husband's body and reassembling them, and then using them to conceive a child. Next to her, we've got Mary cradling Jesus, and this imagery goes back through so much mythology where the mother goddess survives, but her son consort is killed, and she's dealing with that grief. You see that in Inanna type stories. And next to her on the far left, we've got Durga, who's got a great story. There are multiple stories about the birth of Durga, but I like this one. There's an army of demons, all the gods are freaking out, and they each just push out their rage and fear and pain and dark side and everything they've got bottled up in this giant oomph, and it solidifies into this gorgeous golden goddess. And then each one of them hand her a weapon, she's got a lot of weapons there, and send her out against the demons, and she just pulverizes them all. And then later in another story, she pushes out her dark side, and that emerges as Kali. I would still be happy to take comments and discussion in the chat if anybody's got anything to bring up. Continuing. So as you can see, I'm flitting around between mythology and our modern stories because, yeah, as I said, Wrinkle in Time, she's off to rescue her father, then her little brother. Coraline, her parents have been taken. There's Katniss. Labyrinth is about as pure a heroine's journey story as you can get, as she's off to fairyland to save her little brother, which is such a classic. The little brother is, of course, a substitute for having her own baby taken, which was considered too horrific to be in all the fairy stories. So we have so many fairy tales and ballads about the little brother is taken. The Mortal Instruments, her mother is kidnapped early in book 1, movie, TV show. The Last Unicorn, all her people have been taken and she's got to find them. The We Free Men is another little brother is stolen, and it's delightfully funny. And The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, I specifically picked that picture because we've got 2 journeys going side by side. 3 if we count the traitor. But Peter is on a quest to become High King and lead the army. Okay, fine. And Susan and Lucy, we actually follow their story, not Peter's, in the book, as they protect Aslan through the night and then go get the reinforcements and arrive in time to save their brother, Peter. So you see these 2 different quests side by side. Another place you really see it is the movie version of Prince Caspian. Peter leads the army again and screws up, loses. This was not the right approach. No, violence was not the answer here. Whereas Lucy goes out on her own, out into the trees, and awakens them and uses the power of nature to save Narnia, with Aslan going, yep, that was the right call. And again, you're just seeing the heroes and heroines side by side. In the comments, CJ Cherry, I'm sorry I have not read that one. Heroine's Journey written by women versus written by men. That's interesting. I actually had not explored that very much because in so much of the old stuff I was talking about, the fairy tales told by the fire were all told by women, hero's journey or heroine's journey. And the big epics, which are unlikely to have heroine's journey, but it sometimes happens, are the male journey. I think my punchline would be, no, not that different, really. But maybe I should look into that further. Obviously, the ones I have here, we've got some of everything. And yeah, in the Narnia book, yeah, we totally ditch Peter. Yeah. Continuing, but also keeping an eye on the chat, because as I said, otherwise I've done this 100 times. I might as well take some new comments and ideas. All right, talisman. That's different and very old-fashioned. The boy gets a sword. Lightsaber, sting, magic wand, which he uses to duel with. Sure, whatever. The guy gets a sword. The woman occasionally gets a sword. When she does, she's usually doing the Eowyn Mulan thing where she disguises herself as a boy and often has a male mentor, male adversary. She is deliberately going on the boy's journey. But we've got some other patterns, and as you can see, these are all very recent stories. But we've got Rey with the Skywalker lightsaber, which of course has all the history of the Skywalkers. And then later she's going to construct her own lightsaber, which is more of a pole, a distance weapon, which I'll get to in a second. Wonder Woman and her sword, at the beginning of the movie, I was going, oh my god, you're doing that? Really? Who is doing your mythology? But then by the end, when we find out it isn't really about the sword, I was finding the mythology a lot more appropriate. Likewise, you can see She-Ra there with her magic sword of power. This is the rebooted She-Ra. The original one played it more straight. And she and Wonder Woman are both finding out this isn't really about the sword. This is really fine. That was a prop, but now you really need to find out who you are if we take your sword away. Yes, Alana is absolutely doing the Eowyn Mulan, let's disguise the boy and out we go thing. And yeah, although she has an interesting, she gets a lot of feminine symbolism and is the lioness, even as she's got the sword. We see her really, by book 4, Alana is really balancing her masculine and feminine sides. In book 1, she's being very masculine, but by book 4, she's really found a balance. Anyway, I love those. We all love those. So when you've got warrior women, I see a lot more distance weapons. And yes, I mean, going back to the oldest mythology we've got, like Artemis with her bow and stuff like that. Changing Woman has hoops that she throws, all kinds of stuff like that. So I see a lot of bows. There's Xena's chakram, and yes, she has a sword too, but the chakram is the one she's known for. Buffy has all kinds of stuff, a lot of which is out of vampire lore, so she gets complicated. But then later she has her axe, which is passed down by the Slayers, and an axe which has butterfly symbolism, has more feminine symbolism. Hereville, knitting needles, yes. We've got a bunch of whips. We've got lightning, and that's what I was saying about Rey's lightsaber that's more of a pole at the end, that's a distance weapon and fitting this pattern better. I mean, all kinds of modern authors do all kinds of things, but as I said, this is the pattern I see in oldest mythology, so this is a lot of what we see. And of course, so many heroines don't have a sword, right? Here, Harry Potter, take this special wand. Here, young lady, take this. There's a long list of things, right? The golden compass, ruby slippers. In the middle, that's the one time I need to blank on her. That's Vixen from DC, and she's got a magical totem necklace that lets her transform. So, again, I sat down and looked at all fairy tales ever and just wrote down what they got, and off we went. And this comes down to a lot of talismans of perception and information. We get a lot of magic books, the Golden Compass, which is like an encyclopedia, kind of. We get a lot of Coraline, look through this rock with a hole in the middle to see the world the way it really is. Take the amber spyglass. Meg Murray, take these magic spectacles. All of them will let you see through the illusions. Crystal balls, magic mirrors. Mirrors, by the way, represented the soul when you go back far enough. They're not just an image of vanity. Lots of round items. Golden compass, also eggs, apples, cauldrons, necklaces, rings. Round items represent the life cycle. Yes, we are playing with womb imagery. Yes, we could make this sword imagery particularly dirty for the guys if we felt like it. So yeah, when Lucy gets a bottle of the water of life, yes, that is a womb image, and Susan has a bow. We get a lot of grail cup vessel imagery, again, water of life. We have a lot of disguises, Cinderella's dresses kind of thing, that indicate how others see you. And if you read Joan Gould's fairy tale book, you would find the discussion of shoes and the sex the shoes symbolize. Very, very dirty indeed. Yeah. The axe. I'm going to say that the two-sided axe, I'm not making this up, I'm getting this from other sources, resembles a butterfly, which was a symbol for a soul, and a soul was a feminine symbol. So yes, you do see the double-sided axe specifically, and it tended to be a ceremonial axe more than a weapon or a wood-cutting thing, used to symbolize the feminine side. And of course, you certainly have the labyrinth, the cave, the underground, the home, any of that. And again, we see many modern writers still using these. We see many modern writers rejecting these and say, no, I'm giving the young lady a sword because I want to go equal. We see all kinds of reactions to this. And there was somewhere particular I was going with this. And sometimes you see these devices, even in the oldest stuff, used as flipped and liberating. For instance, one of the most back-breaking devices of the old world was a mortar and pestle, and you just sit there grinding grain all day, and yeah, that could be a sex symbol too, but it was this, horrible task you had to do, and the women were stuck in their home. But if you know the stories of Baba Yaga, she uses her mortar and pestle to fly, and her house runs around. So sometimes you see these very much flipped and used to liberate people. There are so many different options. All right. So the hero and the heroine both cross over into the magic world. Super heroines discover their powers. And a really great image for you need to cross over is that picture out of Divergent where she's from the self-effacing group, and so she's all in gray, and all the guys in black and red are going, if you want to join us, you have to leap off the side of the building. That's the task. Over you go. And we can see Triss really thinking hard about that. So yeah, the underworld, it all represents the underworld. Fairyland, Magic Kingdom, we go over from Earth to Oz or Narnia, we discover that we have superpowers and thus we're a superhero, whatever it is, you cross into the unconscious realm. And one difference is, for the guy, it's the world he's never explored. It's Frodo from the ordinary world going into Galadriel's forest and going, I need to learn this spirituality, but it's so different from anything I know. Whereas for the young lady, it's, this is your heritage, this is who you're supposed to be, and this is the side of yourself you need to connect with. So they go out and they make friends. Traditionally, the friends represent parts of themselves that they haven't yet explored, haven't yet mastered. The most classic is Dorothy's friends represent brains, heart, and courage, and she's incorporating these abilities. You see a lot of Golden Compass series where the sidekicks are all the opposite gender and offer all the insights that the main character doesn't have. We have a lot of animal friends. We have a lot of superhero teams that all have different powers and different strengths. So off they go. The romance is something that's different between the guy and the girl. The guy typically has a swan maiden romance. She's a shapeshifter, and she's beautiful nature, and he's got to claim her and tame her and so on and so forth. The traditional pattern for the heroine is Beauty and the Beast, where he looks monstrous but is sweet underneath. And a shapeshifter romance represents how much the other person keeps changing and keeps throwing them off guard. There's Catwoman and Batman. I love them. And yes, absolutely, if you have a woman-woman romance or man-man romance, this still works. Going back to weapons, I would not really call the red slippers a weapon. I would not even call the bucket of water a weapon. That's more of a baptism and the witch is all evil thing. Dorothy has the water of life. And the shoes, well, you can read my Chosen One book to watch me very carefully avoid saying that they're a sex symbol while talking about how they're fertility incarnate and stuff. They're bright red. Well, or they're silver. We get a lot of silver imagery for heroines. Moon magic and purity and mirrors and stuff. So again, all over the world, we get the Beauty and the Beast story, whether it's a tiger or a monkey or a lizard or whatever you've got. Yes, Tam Lin, absolutely, as he is the scariest beast of all. He's every nasty, monstrous critter, and she's got this task, no sword at all. She's just got the task of holding him through the night as he's trying to bite her and sting her and burn her and stuff, and that is about as classic a heroine's journey as you get, the test of endurance as she's trying to rescue her lover, and she's pregnant. where you get all kinds of metaphors about, in order to earn your child, you're going to have to prove that you can hold your family together. You see a lot of that in Cupid and Psyche too. All right, and Beauty and the Beast, again, modernizes into so many stories. All right, another step for the hero and heroine. As I said, Frodo goes to meet Galadriel, and that's the hero's traditional encounter with the mother figure, who is kind and sweet, but also teaches, or scary, and teaches him stuff he doesn't have in his arsenal. The heroine traditionally goes back home in the middle or something like that and discovers that the father is not as powerful as she thought. He is not this great, monstrous overlord, perhaps, and in fact is powerless and isn't going to be able to save her. She's going to have to do it herself. I keep saying the best image of this is, but yeah, so many of these movies hit the iconic buttons. Well, when Dorothy comes back, having defeated the Witch of the West to face the great and powerful Oz, so scary, and discovers it's just a little humbug behind a curtain who can't send her home, that's the moment. Susan and Lucy see Aslan dead and realize they're going to have to step up. And we all watched Captain Marvel absolutely trounce her mentor, who seemed to be so powerful and wise and have all the abilities at the beginning. And here she is slamming him around and humiliating him as she defeats him. Yeah. Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman really hit a lot of these buttons. I wrote entire books charting how they hit all the buttons. I've got a lot of free books I could hand out for review copies if somebody wanted something. All right. She crosses her into the realm of death. She goes into the darkest place of all. There's Buffy walking down into the underworld with just a crossbow in her prom dress and leather jacket. We have some heroines actually die. There's Martha Washington again, charging into battle. Off they go. Another pattern I saw specifically in the heroine's journey is the hero goes into the unconscious realm where he has no power, the magic kingdom, the realm of death, whatever, Sauron's lair. The heroine sometimes grows up in the magic land, like the Little Mermaid or the Six Swans girl, and then is taken to the prince's castle where she has no power. Katniss is taken out of her magical forest into the big city. We've got all kinds of heroes and heroines out into the middle of the Death Star, Wicked Witch's castle, yeah. And she's bringing the power of nature with her. There's that scene where Katniss is looking at the imaginary forest. And there she's going to face her shadow. So we've got a lot of different shadows here. Bottom left, we've got Batwoman discovers that her nemesis is her twin. And yes, the Batwoman TV show was having such fun with this. They moved that revelation to episode 1, and off we went. She-Hulk and Hulk, any superheroes are probably facing a villain much like themselves, but also Clark Kent and Superman tend to be shadows for each other, and 1,000 times more when they're fighting with their personality like She-Hulk and the Jennifer inside. They can be a monstrous killer like Meg Murray and It, or there's Rose, the champion of life, and a Dalek, champion of death. Of course, Xena versus the kind of evil protege she accidentally made, Gabrielle versus her evil daughter who looks just like her. Just like Hulk, we've got the Phoenix and Jean Grey. Occasionally, you get a male-female pair for this. Rey and Kylo Ren, of course, also Buffy and Spike sometimes, but most often it's more like Buffy and Faith, the evil twin pattern, or the evil stepmother pattern. Wicked Witch, perhaps I should say. And as I said, this represents confronting all the choices you've chosen not to make, all the things you've pushed out of your own personality. Jennifer has decided not to be She-Hulk, so much so that the She-Hulk side rises up and runs amok. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, of course, is the classic. And as I said, it's not just an evil twin, it could be this evil mother figure. And it isn't precisely a tyrant, it's the child killer, the Medea figure, the evil witch that eats children. So you've got the Witch of Narnia, who's frozen the world in eternal winter. You've got the Wicked Witch of the West, who's so dried up water will melt her. It's all these forces of sterility and child killing. And here they are. Oh, on the bottom, in season 2, our young heroine Sky, who's always wondered where she came from, finds her mother, and it is very much a disappointment and a horror when she finds out what her mother really is. So off they go. In the middle, that's Madame Morrible from Wicked. Wicked absolutely is doing the heroine's journey. And sometimes you do see them facing the tyrant. And again, you get misogyny as a pattern here. I see Buffy. And you also get this pattern of the world destroyer, and she's the champion of life fighting against him. And for these guys, they pretty much just have to be destroyed and killed, whereas sometimes the evil twin can be forgiven, embraced, become part of the self, incorporated into the self. Dolores Umbridge is such a flat character. So she's we only hear about her from Harry Potter's side, but we just don't see much out of her. Harry doesn't even consider her his great nemesis. She's just like a jerk. So I'm not sure I want to put her so much into this. But the bit in book 7 where Hermione has to masquerade as Bellatrix, that is an intriguing shadow moment, because you see a lot of that, the switching places, the having to take on the traits of the evil side in order to learn and grow from it. A great one is the Alice in Wonderland 2010 movie, where she apprentices herself to the Red Queen and is dressing like her and flirting with her boyfriend. And that's how the heroine is learning how to defeat her nemesis. You see this in Golden Compass, so many of these. Absolutely, I'm sure we will go into Discord. But let me see how many slides I can get through. So yeah, we're facing the terrible mother as discussed. And another great image is Moana with the evil goddess of fire and rage is the same as the good goddess. They're two-sided. Oh, I didn't even get into Frozen, but yeah, Frozen is hitting all these buttons, absolutely. So the heroine, we are reaching the end. Good, so many slides. The heroine, we said she was out on a quest to save her little brother or something. Well, she succeeds. She gets what she wants. There's Bubble Girl in book 3, breaking out of her bubble, strong and powerful and red. We see so many saviors here with the guy they've saved. Or doesn't have to be a guy. And then the heroine has learned from the dark side how to become a master of life and death, understanding both sides of it, wielding the powers from both sides. Twilight, okay, that was a very wimpy form of the journey, but in book 4, when she's given birth and she's discovered that her power is being a shield and she's protecting her vampire clan and discovering the vampire's powers and even learning to be violent, yeah, we're hitting the buttons. And there's Elsa, likewise, who's mastered the normal world, we could say, and also the spirit world, and we see her ruling one then the other and bouncing between them and balancing both, and that's the quest. However, if you keep the story going on long enough, Medea moves on past her triumphant marriage and her rescuing of Jason to become darker and crueler and more tyrannical, and eventually she becomes a killer of her own children. And as I'm exploring in the villain's journey, if you don't cut off the cycle, you often see the triumphant princess slowly becoming the evil queen. I can get us so many sources about that. That is a completely other presentation, which is recorded. So that's something to keep an eye on. the dark side, the angry goddess of Moana that's always waiting under the surface of the benevolent goddess of Moana. All right, that was the presentation, and we still have, like, I don't know, 10 minutes for questions or something. Anybody got anything? I know, that was such an info dump. That was such an info dump. You die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain? Yes, not in 100% of cases. And for instance, the Buffy season 8 comic, she's stealing from mega corporations to fund the Slayers. So she's become 5% evil, but not 95% evil. But it's worth watching because once she's become the ruler, we get into absolute power corrupts absolutely. If you've read Cupid and Psyche, in that one, Venus, the goddess of love and beauty, is a shrewish, evil mother-in-law, or is testing Psyche to make sure Psyche really has what it takes to become a goddess. So some of our evil characters aren't that evil, and it's a sliding scale. Yeah. How do we read the books I wrote? You look up Valerie Estelle Frankel on Amazon, or you email me and say, I'd love a review copy of the one about Xena or something. Amazon has the list, so does my website. I would like to throw up the links I put at the beginning, because if you showed up 5 minutes late, you might not have gotten those. I do have a free book. This talk is on YouTube. The Villain's Journey is on YouTube. The Villain's Journey book is coming soon. This slideshow is on SlideShare. Skimming back through the chat. One of the criticisms of the hero's journey is that it's individual focused. I meant to bring that up. Yes. I have done entire other presentations on what the heroine's journey is looking like in the last couple of years. I'm seeing some new patterns, like, oh, becoming queen is not the right answer here. We really need to tear down the whole system because the kingdom is so corrupt, so built on colonialism and slave labor and bad practices that no, being queen is really not going to answer this. And of course, we've seen the team of friends who are all equally whatever, and we've seen the I'm nobody special, I am not the one with the special powers and the destiny. And yet, such a person who does not have the destiny can still absolutely go on. If you call this testing to earn your adulthood, we see a lot of people still going on versions of this journey, even if they were not like a destined one or something. I would be very happy to put all these links in the Discord. The Discord will be the water table room, and we will go there in just a minute or two, and I would be happy to answer more questions. All the questions, any questions you've got. And also, am I still screen sharing? Oops, me bad. Take that away. Now I can see things better. I'm so happy to do this by email and stuff. You can search up my name on the web. In the questions, I'm seeing the Queen's Gambit. Sorry I didn't watch that. I read the book, and I guess I was just distracted by how many drugs she kept taking. So I wasn't totally thrilled with the kind of adulthood she found, but yeah, I guess she's questing for adulthood and finding her place in the world. The simple answer I would say is anybody who faces death and comes out stronger, and it doesn't have to be their death, Little Woman, it's her sister's death, and anyone who's facing somebody who's kind of like an evil twin is on the hero's journey, heroine's journey. We will be on the water table Discord very soon. And how are modern heroines different from traditional heroines? A lot of it's the same, as I kind of went over for an hour. I really see more people using the same patterns, but as I said, some people have been breaking the pattern to say becoming queen of an unjust system is not the answer here, or no, we don't want your destined one. We want everybody who is I want everyone who's equally empowered here. Kind of the Buffy pattern where they realize they're a circle of friends questing and they all win in the end, and she chooses to share the power. Buffy got very modern heroine. And some people I see very deliberately trying to flip the pattern and saying things like, well, I'm going to make my powerful girl have a sword. So you do see a lot of awareness of the pattern now, but you still see people telling very pure tales that are absolutely following the old patterns. What's the modern happily ever after? Take your favorite show and check out the last episode. Tends to be the friends surviving and creating a better community where everybody or a majority of people can be happy and safe. Yeah. What do individual people think is the, best ending of She-Ra, Buffy? I mean, Xena, kind of a bittersweet ending, but she sends off her protege to be the next generation, so there's a thing. All right. The Princess and Conan the Destroyer. Maybe. I don't think I saw that one. You absolutely can have a hero's journey with the girl doing a little heroine's journey stuff in the background. Again, Hermione's arc in Harry Potter absolutely is a few little bits. I really wanted to see Hermione destroy Voldemort's cup. That absolutely would have been heroine's journey in A Descent into Darkness, but we missed it. I have not gotten a message, but since it's 10 till, I think I'm supposed to be done. So I am going to the Water Table Discord, where I would be happy to answer more stuff. And as I said, absolutely email me, find me online, find me on Amazon, anything that appeals to you. And thank you so much for coming. Oh, and do save the chat if you want to.